Hello friends, welcome to week 6 of How Not to Diet Book Club. This week we read pages 151 through 180. Dr. Greger gave us 3 more ingredients to the most effective weight loss program. That would be eating foods that are low in fat, low in sugar, and low in addictive properties. Last week my brother Chip called me and said he was going to do a 40-day junk food fast. So I agreed to do it with him. He had been entertaining grandkids most of the summer, and Grandma was making their favorite treats, and Chip was tempted and gained weight. So now he wants to get more serious about eating healthy. My goal for this next week is to add more whole grains, beans, legumes, greens, and unprocessed foods. I realized that I have been plant-based for almost 3 years, but I wasn't whole food plant-based because I ate a lot of processed foods, breads, cereals, grape nuts, pastas, things like that, and some packaged foods, but not a lot. But I want to be whole food plant-based because I learned in the reading this week that eating high fiber foods and low fat foods really help with reversing heart disease and reversing just about every disease out there. So sticking with this plan, I lost 7 pounds this week, and I was eating so much food. I was kind of nervous to get on the scale every day because I was eating a lot of food, but it was low calorie density foods and not high calorie foods. Another motivation besides the weight loss for doing this junk food fast is 3 months ago, I had an ultrasound of my abdomen, and the doctor said, "Did you know that you had fatty liver disease?" And I thought, don't alcoholics get fatty liver disease? I don't drink at all. And I thought, fatty liver disease leads to fatty hepatitis, liver scarring, liver cancer. I don't want any of that. So I wondered where it came from, and Dr. Greger said it comes from the sugars we eat, the fats we eat, and the fat we store. Chef AJ is right. The fat you eat is the fat you wear, and it can lead to all kinds of problems in our bodies. A plant-based diet can reverse heart disease and can reverse fatty liver disease. So I looked over the list of wonderful foods that are recommended, and for breakfast every day this week, I added a serving of beans, a serving of whole grains, a serving of greens, and a serving of fruit. So before I'd eat my oatmeal with berries in it, I would have beans and greens. And I know that sounds weird to people, but Tammy Kramer and Chef AJ have been recommending it for a long time, so I'm doing it too. And I add a little vinegar in there, apple cider vinegar, and some spices. It's delicious. And it was very filling. For lunch, I would have what I like to call my rainbow chopped salad. And it has like 15 different vegetables in there. And again, I'm motivated and inspired by Tammy Kramer because she does her batch salad prep. So I'd put my greens in here, and then my little bits that were already chopped with my Vidalia onion chopper in here, and there are honestly more than 15 different veggies in there, and it is delicious. For salad dressing, I usually used lemon juice, or Dylan Holmes has some really good salad dressings, but I ran out, so I made my own, and I used Jane Esselstyn's 3-2-1 salad dressing. 3 parts she uses balsamic vinegar, 3 parts vinegar, 2 parts mustard. I use West Bray's salt-free mustard, and 1 part sweetener. And I use date syrup because I would just soak dates and blend them up in my magic bullet and have them in there. It was delicious. Really tangy, so if it's too tangy for you, the 3-2-1 salad dressing, you can add water to it. I also like to thicken it up a little bit by adding ground flax in there and shaking it up, and it makes it thick enough to stick to everything, and delicious. I would add 1/2 cup of beans to my salad and 1/2 cup of whole grains to my salad, 1/4 cup of blueberries, and 1/4 cup of diced apple. And oh my goodness, the colors and textures and flavors were so delicious and satisfying. Oh my goodness, I had no cravings for any junk food because I was so full. And for supper, I usually had a soup or a stew, more greens on the side, sometimes roasted veggies, and this week, watermelon for dessert. Yummy. I would add beans and grains. If it didn't already have it in the stew, I would add my 1/2 cup of beans and my 1/2 cup of whole grains. Dr. Greger makes this concoction called brole for his whole grains: barley, rye, oats, lentils, and now he's added sorghum. So I added those, and I love kamut too, so I put that in there and boiled it like pasta, drain it, put the lid back on and let it sit for 10 minutes, and I've got perfect whole grains, and I'd put those in freezer bags and keep some in the fridge and some in the freezer, and so I've got a whole batch of those, and they're delicious. High fiber foods really do suppress the appetite, and I am very grateful for that. During the summer, however, I got hooked on kettle corn. Salty, sweet, crunchy, yummy, and I looked on the label and it said, this is made with palm oil, and I rationalized in my mind, oh, well, that's a plant-based oil. But in our reading, Dr. Greger talked about a research study done with muffins that were cooked with saturated fat, and palm oil is saturated fat. It is the same kind, well, it is as bad for you as the saturated fat in red meat. Bummer. But people who ate muffins that were made with saturated fat as opposed to plant-based oils that had unsaturated fat. Anyway, the saturated fat people, they did biopsies on them the next day of their thighs and their arms and their abdomen, and the people that had eaten saturated fat deposited twice as much fat, especially around, the dangerous visceral fat around their vital organs. So, no more kettle corn for me. I have been eating frozen fruit for my dessert. Somebody asked me yesterday, Kathy, what do you eat for treats? And I said, well, fresh fruit and frozen fruit. Oh my goodness, it's like yum. And Yonana machine, oh, delicious. I guess they call it nice cream. I'm too lazy to do that, so I just do the frozen fruit. I found that eating more beans and greens and whole grains this week, I have had so much energy. Every day my energy level increased, and I was able to do more chores. I felt much better walking every day or doing my water Zumba dance class. And so I want to keep it up. The energy level just keeps rising, and the cravings and the hunger keep going down. So it's a win-win situation here. Now for this next week, I had 1 week of success. So for the next week, of course, I'm going to avoid meat and dairy and fried foods and no processed foods for the next week. I can't commit for the rest of my life, but for next week, that's the goal. So I'm not going to saute my veggies in oil. I'm going to saute them in either citrus juice or vinegars or water, broth. Those all make the stuff doesn't stick to the pan with those, so it works really well. I'll roast veggies or steam veggies. And when I bake things, I don't do a lot of baking, but when I do make cookies or whatever, instead of using eggs as binder, I will use a flax egg. So ground flax meal with water makes a gummy binder for things. And to moisten foods, I can add applesauce or mashed bananas. Even pumpkin puree works really well. And for sweeteners, I've been using the date paste that I made. I'm not going to use any artificial sweeteners in our reading. Dr. Greger said artificial sweeteners, even monk fruit and stevia, can cause migraines, increase hunger dramatically, and increase cravings later. And artificial sweeteners trick your brain into craving more junk food. I don't need that. So no artificial sweeteners for me. The excess sweet, the excess salt, those are addictive. Dr. Goldhammer likes to call them drugs, because they're processed, highly refined foods that are addictive. In a published scientific study on food addiction, here's a quote: "Intense sweetness surpasses cocaine reward pathways in the brain." So the artificial sweeteners make things hyper sweet. I don't need that. Fruit is plenty sweet for me. I've had success this week. That 7 pounds was delightful. I don't expect to lose another 7 pounds this week. But a couple of pounds a week, 2 or 3, would be divine. So I'd like to invite you to join me next week on a junk food fast. No processed foods for a week. Anybody can do that. And I think we will definitely reap the rewards if we load up on whole grains, all kinds of legumes, beans, peas, green leafy vegetables, fruits, and colorful veggies, lots of different kinds. Remember, you matter. Never give up. I'll see you next week. Bye.